Welcome to Bryer CD Showcase. I'm Bryer Cisneros, and we are back once again for part 2 of my CD collection series. So obviously we're continuing from part 1, and now we're in a different part of the collection, and now we're in this particular area. So this is we're now entering the part where this is kind of where you see in the background my videos. So for part 2, I'm only going to cover everything that's here. Everything here onward we'll save for part 3. So another thing you notice is that there's a lot of other stuff on here. Of course, there's like the ZZ Top box sets, a lot of these little five packs, and also the Saxon albums here. And I also have some stuff underneath as well, so like these types of packaging. I'm actually not going to talk about them here yet. I'll save them for probably the final episode, and in that video I'll explain why they're here and not actually in the collection itself. But yeah, look forward to those. So now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So of course I'm going to start from the top here, work downward until we get to the last one, which will be the Guns N' Roses. Okay, so first up we have Dokken, great 80s hair metal band. If you actually like that term, I know some people don't like the term hair metal. A lot of people just say 80s metal. Regardless, I also have this other Dokken album. We have Under Lock and Key, another good album. And those are the only two Dokkens I have so far. I do want to get more. Same thing I could say about the Doors. So of course I have the debut classic album. What can be said about it? And I also have their follow-up, which was recent. We have Strange Days. Very good album. Very strong, not as strong as the debut, but still pretty good. And last one I have is Morrison Hotel. Okay, and then from here I only have one by this band, and that's Dream Theater. We have Imagine, Images and Words. I said Imagine. And then same thing with Duran Duran. This is my only one, the only one I have. This is the self-titled, but it's also called the Wedding Album. You're probably noticing I'm talking very quickly in this part, and that's because it's very hot. And so I'm trying to get to this pretty quick. So if I look pretty shiny, that explains it. But moving on, Bob Dylan's up next. We have Highway 61 Revisited. Then from here, possibly my favorite Bob Dylan album so far, we have Blonde on Blonde. Blood on the Tracks, which is probably my second favorite so far. We have Desire, which is the first Bob Dylan album I ever received. And then Slow Train Coming. And then lastly I have Time Out of Mind. Okay, and now we're going to the Eagles, and I have 4 by them. We have Desperado. Great album. Same as this one, which is their monster big seller, Hotel California. The Long Run. Kind of a disappointment in terms of following up Hotel California, but I think there's still some strong songs on it. Then lastly, this was a used copy at a thrift store. We have Long Road Out of Eden, which a lot of Eagles fans say it's not very good. I mean, there's a couple of decent songs on here, but it's definitely one I don't really listen to very often. Then I have a greatest hits. We have Earth, Wind, and Fire. Very good compilation. There's 17 songs on here. I'm thinking about getting more of their albums, so in the comments below, let me know if there's any particular Earth, Wind, and Fire albums I should really check out. That should be interesting. Okay, so now we go to Electric Light Orchestra, and for a long time all I had was the greatest hits compilation, which we'll see shortly, but I do have their first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 first 8 albums, and I got a good deal on these because they were on sale on Amazon. So each one was about $3 to $4 a pop, which is incredible. So that was a deal I just could not pass. So let's go ahead and go through those. So we have the self-titled, the Electric Light Orchestra. Of course, in the US, they were called, it was called No Answer. That was the name of the album. And here in the States, kind of an interesting story behind that. Then we have ELO2, another good one. On the Third Day with this very lazy cover. El Dorado, kind of their breakout album, I think. Then we have Face the Music. And A New World Record. So now we're going to this column now. Out of the Blue, classic, and then Discovery. And then here's the compilation that I had for a long time. Still has the sticker on it. This is a good compilation, by the way. There's 20 songs on here, so if you want a good like starter pack into Electric Light Orchestra, then I recommend this one. It's pretty good. Alright, so of course I have some more, I guess, rarities or more obscure bands here. So this band is called Eloy, and they're a German progressive rock band, but they sing in English. So I have Ocean. Really love this cover. Very cool. So this is a band that I'm slowly starting to get into more and more. The vocals on here, they're pretty unique. I wouldn't say this guy's like a classical singer by no stretch, but you know, I think it fits well with the music here. Very interesting stuff. And this one's a concept album about the decline of Atlantis. Interesting, very interesting stuff. And then this one's currently my favorite by them, and the only other Eloy album I have, and this one's called Silent Cries and Mighty Echoes. Bit more immediate, has more rock elements in it. Okay, next is Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Now I do have another Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, which you can kind of see in the corner, but again, I'm going to save this until the final episode. Again, I'll explain why when we get there. Okay, but the other ELP album I have is Brain Salad Surgery. Pretty cool cover, I must say. You gotta love that about progressive rock albums. Some of their covers are very cool. Alright, I have Enya. This one's called Shepherd Moons. And then I have A Day Without Rain. They're fine. Granted, the only song I really do like by Enya is Only Time. Everything else, it sounds good, but definitely not music I would particularly go back to on a regular basis. But you know, maybe in certain moods, then maybe they're just fine. Alright, we have one Eurythmics album, and that's of course is Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. Probably their most commercially successful album. Now we have more black metal. This one is by a band called Fear of Eternity, and this album is called Spirit of Sorrow. This is a more ambient album, so it has black metal vocals, but has more keyboards in it. Not a whole lot of guitar, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've heard it, but last time I listened to it, I enjoyed it. So if you're into more ambient, but want to start getting some black metal, then this is probably a nice little starter, I guess, to kind of just ease your way into the genre. But you know, may still not click. That's a given. Okay, anyway, Fleetwood Mac. I have quite a bit by them. So this is probably the, I guess, earliest album by them. So this is during the Bob Welch era. This one's called Bare Trees. Great album. Very impressed by this. Then, of course, we have the self-titled from 1975, where Buckingham and Nix first joined. And of course, every collection, if you're a music fan, you gotta have Rumors. Gotta have it. And the other one I have is Tango in the Night. Put these away. Okay, another compilation. Flock of Seagulls. I can't talk. This is the heat. I love Iran, and I also love Space Age Love Song. Those are great songs. Everything else is pretty good. Again, this is probably all you'll need by A Flock of Seagulls. And then we have a soundtrack. Now, when it comes to soundtrack albums, I usually, especially for one-offs, like in part 1, I had like Tarzan and Brother Bear, but since those were mainly done by Phil Collins, I kind of included him in his discography. But with movies that don't really have like a main person to them, then I'll just put them in based on the title of the movie. So we're talking about Footloose. Of course you have Kevin Bacon here on the cover, and yeah, I got this at a used store as well. So of course it has the title track by Kenny Loggins, Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler. Then you have Never, which is the final song on here, which is a very good song. Then there's other songs in here. Let me see who else is here. I mean, you have another Kenny Loggins song with I'm Free. And then Sammy Hagar's on here with The Girl Gets Around. And those are probably all the other names I recognize here. But yeah, might as well. Okay, Foreigner. I only have 3 so far. So I have the self-titled debut, Double Vision, and then 4. I'm trying to get Head Games, but that's kind of hard to get for some reason. And now we get to a live album. We have Frampton Comes Alive. Great live album, classic. Another Gray's Hits. We have The Best of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Good compilation. It has 20 songs. Probably all you'll need, maybe. Yeah, I dig it. All right, now we're entering the G's. Okay, we're almost done with part 2. So first up, we have Peter Gabriel. So we have his self-titled debut. Well, his debut. He has like 4 albums called Peter Gabriel, but this is particularly the one that many people call Car, because he's in a car, and still has one of the worst packaging decisions ever, because there's no place to put the booklet. It kind of just hangs out in here. You just gotta pray you don't lose it. Kind of stupid, but whatever. Then I also have his 3rd album, which is also called Melt, because his face is melting. And of course I have So as well. Then we move up here. We have Us. And then finally by Peter Gabriel we have Up. Alright, and now we're entering Genesis. Now, I've made plenty of videos about Genesis. I did a ranking video and I did a favorite songs on each album video. So if you haven't seen those, go ahead and check those out. I'll probably leave links in the description if you haven't seen them yet. But yep, I own every studio album by them. So let's get through these pretty quickly. I won't go too in depth here, but of course you have the debut from Genesis to Revelation. Trespass. Nursery Crime, the first one with Steve Hackett and Phil Collins. My favorite one, Foxtrot. I guess I spoiled it for that ranking video. You have the live album, Genesis Live, which I put between Foxtrot and Selling England by the Pound, because that was kind of that time period. Of course, I already mentioned it, but of course, here's Selling England by the Pound. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Trick of the Tail. The first one with Phil Collins on lead vocals. Love this album. Of course, we have Wind and Wuthering as well. And then there were 3, so Steve Hackey's out of the band, so now they're just a trio. So we have Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks. Duke, the first Genesis album I ever received. Didn't appreciate it back then, but over time it's grown on me a lot more. Abacab. Then we have Shapes, or just Genesis. And everyone's favorite, Invisible Touch. Yes, it's in my top 10. Deal with it. And then We Can't Dance. And then finally, we have Calling All Stations. Funny enough, I think this one's slowly starting to get more of a more recognition, because, you know, I get some people commenting on my Genesis videos saying that this one's kind of overlooked. And, you know, fair enough. Again, maybe one day I'll really take a much deeper dive into it. But, you know, we'll see what happens. I tried to listen to it again not that long ago, but still hasn't clicked for me yet. But maybe someday. Maybe someday. Alright, we're almost done here. Just a few more to go. So now let's go to Gentle Giant. I only have 2 so far, but I definitely want to get more. But again, they're hard to come by for some reason. So we have Acquiring the Taste with this very bizarre album cover. What is he licking? Did you say Giant Peach? You're correct. I made that joke already. Moving on. Octopus. The first one I bought. Very good stuff. I mean, this is like prog rock to the max. I mean, that's really what you can describe Gentle Giant as a whole. Okay, Go-Go's, Beauty and the Beat. Very good stuff. Like me some good Go-Go's. Okay, I only have one Grand Funk Railroad album, and that's, of course, Grand Funk, or just the Red album. Again, this is a band where I've been meaning to really take a deep dive into them, but I never do. I have no idea why. I enjoyed it. I mean, the bass work on this album in particular is just off the chain because it's so high in the mix, you can hear it. But for some reason, I haven't gone beyond this one. I don't know. But someday, I can say that. I've been saying that for a lot of bands, but you know, I'm still young. There's still tons of time. We'll see. Okay, Greta Van Fleet. This is their EP from the Fires. You know, love them or hate them, I think they're pretty good. They definitely have talent. Do they sound like Led Zeppelin? Yeah, you can hear it. But, you know, it doesn't really bother me, honestly. And then finally, to close off this part, we have Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Of course, a classic album. Okay, one of the greatest debuts ever. And that's where we'll call it for now. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you'll enjoy part 3 as well. Definitely gonna get some interesting stuff there. Okay, so again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye for now.